The transport ship times, celestial horizon times, hummed through the void between star systems, carrying diplomats, traders, and students to the prestigious Galactic Academy on Zentari Prime. Among the passengers sat Maya Chen, a 17-year-old human girl who kept to herself in the corner of the common area. Her plain brown hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the standard academy uniform that did nothing to distinguish her from any other student. Around her, the alien passengers spoke in hushed tones about their prestigious backgrounds. The Vorthak delegation boasted about their warrior heritage, their scaled skin gleaming under the ship's lights as they demonstrated combat stances. The ethereal luminari floated nearby, their crystalline bodies refracting light as they discussed their mastery over energy manipulation. Even the insectoid Kythera clicked their mandibles proudly while showing off their natural ability to interface with technology through bioneural connections. "Look at the human," whispered Zektar, a young Vorthak whose family controlled 3 star systems. "She sits there like she belongs among us. Humans are barely spacefaring. What could she possibly contribute to the Academy?" His companion, Velthara, let out a rumbling laugh. "I heard they only accepted her because the Academy needed to fill some diversity quota. Humans have no special abilities, no advanced technology, no remarkable heritage. They're just ordinary." The Luminary student, Bright Song of Distant Stars, chimed in with a voice like tinkling bells. "My research indicates humans have only been in space for a few centuries. We Luminari have been traveling between dimensions for millennia. Perhaps she's here to learn what real civilization looks like." Maya continued reading her datapad, seemingly oblivious to their conversations, but her jaw tightened slightly. She had heard similar comments throughout her journey. The other students saw her as a charity case, a primitive being who had somehow talked her way into the most exclusive educational institution in the galaxy. The truth was far different, but Maya had learned long ago to keep her secrets hidden. The small pendant beneath her uniform contained more power than most of these beings could comprehend, but it remained dormant, waiting. Her grandmother's words echoed in her memory. "The dragon chooses when to reveal itself, child. Until that moment, you are just another face in the crowd." As the ship approached Zentari Prime, the viewing screens showed the Academy's magnificent structure. Built into a massive asteroid, the institution sprawled across multiple levels, each one housing different departments dedicated to various fields of galactic knowledge. Docking bays dotted the surface like metallic flowers, and energy shields shimmered around the entire complex. "Impressive," muttered Crix, a Kythera whose family had sent 12 generations to the Academy. "Though I suppose it must seem like magic to primitive eyes." Maya finally looked up from her reading. "Actually, the gravitational anchoring system is quite elegant. They're using a controlled singularity to maintain structural integrity while allowing for expansion. The energy efficiency is remarkable." The aliens stared at her in surprise. Zektar recovered first, his scaled features twisting into a sneer. "Anyone can memorize facts from a database. Understanding and applying advanced concepts requires superior intellect and breeding." "Of course," Maya replied quietly, returning to her datapad. "I'm sure you're right." The docking procedures took several hours, during which the students were processed through various screening systems. Maya watched as her classmates demonstrated their abilities for the security scanners. The Vorthak showed their enhanced strength and reflexes. The Luminari displayed their energy manipulation. The Kythera interfaced directly with the computer systems. When Maya's turn came, the scanners detected nothing unusual. Standard human physiology, average physical capabilities, no special abilities registered. The security officer, a bored-looking Zentari with 4 arms, barely glanced at her results before waving her through. "Room assignments will be distributed shortly," announced the Academy's welcome coordinator, a tall being whose species Maya didn't recognize. "Classes begin tomorrow. The Academy expects excellence from all students, regardless of their background." The subtle emphasis on the last word wasn't lost on anyone. Maya found herself assigned to a dormitory wing primarily housing scholarship students and those from lesser-known species. Her roommate turned out to be a Veltar named Sequence of Harmonic Frequencies, whose people communicated through mathematical equations and had been spacefaring for only slightly longer than humans. "They put us together because we're both considered developing species," Sequence explained, her translator rendering her mathematical speech into standard galactic. "The others think we don't belong here." Maya unpacked her few belongings. carefully placing a small wooden box in her drawer. Maybe they're right. Maybe we should prove ourselves through our work instead of our heritage. You're more optimistic than I expected, Sequence noted. Most beings become bitter when faced with such prejudice. I've learned that actions speak louder than assumptions, Maya replied. We'll see what happens in class. The first day of instruction proved challenging for everyone except the students from established galactic families. Professor Nexus, a being of pure energy, contained within a humanoid framework, taught advanced quantum mechanics and showed no patience for students who couldn't keep up. The fundamental relationship between space-time curvature and consciousness manipulation should be obvious to anyone with proper education, Nexus declared, equations flowing across the holographic displays faster than most students could read. Zektar and his friends nodded knowingly, though Maya noticed they were frantically taking notes. The Luminari seemed to absorb the information effortlessly, their crystalline forms pulsing with understanding. The Kythera clicked approvingly as they downloaded the data directly into their bio-neural networks. Maya watched, listened, and occasionally asked questions that made Professor Nexus pause thoughtfully before answering. Her queries weren't about basic concepts but about applications and implications that most students wouldn't consider until advanced coursework. Interesting perspective, Miss Chen, Nexus said after one particularly insightful question about dimensional stability. Your approach suggests familiarity with non-linear thinking patterns. I've always been curious about how different systems interact, Maya replied simply. During lunch, she sat alone while the other students clustered according to species and social status. Sequence joined her, along with a few other scholarship students who had been similarly ostracized by their more privileged classmates. The Vorthak are planning something, Sequence warned. My mathematical models suggest they intend to embarrass you during combat training this afternoon. Maya sipped her nutrient drink thoughtfully. Combat training, physical and mental challenges designed to test our abilities under pressure, explained Rhythm of Growing Things. A plant-like being whose people specialized in biological sciences, the established families use it as an opportunity to demonstrate their superiority. I see. Maya finished her meal without showing any concern. Well, I suppose we'll find out what happens. The combat training facility occupied an entire level of the academy, with multiple environments that could be reconfigured for different scenarios. Students were divided into teams for tactical exercises, with the obvious assumption that the prestigious families would dominate while the scholarship students struggled to keep up. Maya found herself assigned to a team with Sequence and two other lesser-known species, facing off against Zektar's group of elite students. The scenario involved navigating a maze-like structure while avoiding automated defenses and reaching an objective point. This should be amusing, Zektar announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. Let's see how long it takes the primitive to get herself eliminated. The exercise began with both teams entering opposite ends of the maze. Zektar's group moved with practiced coordination, their enhanced abilities allowing them to bypass many of the obstacles with brute force or technological superiority. Maya's team proceeded more carefully, with Sequence calculating optimal paths, while the others used their specialized knowledge to anticipate the maze's defensive patterns. Maya herself seemed to contribute little beyond basic human capabilities, staying in the middle of her team's formation and following their lead. The watching instructors nodded approvingly at Zektar's aggressive tactics, while barely paying attention to the scholarship team's methodical approach. Everything changed when both teams reached the central chamber simultaneously. The objective required accessing a complex control system while defending against automated Guardian drones. Zektar's team immediately engaged the drones with superior firepower and physical abilities, but the control system proved resistant to their direct approach. Maya's team hung back, analyzing the situation while their opponents fought the mechanical Guardians. Then Maya stepped forward, ignoring the battle raging around her, and approached the control panel with calm confidence. The system responded to her touch in ways that surprised everyone watching. Where others had tried to force their way through its defenses, Maya seemed to understand its underlying logic intuitively. Her fingers moved across the interface with practiced ease, bypassing security protocols that had stumped the most technologically advanced students. "How is she doing that?" demanded Professor Nexus, leaning forward in the observation booth. "Those systems require advanced bio-neural integration, or quantum consciousness manipulation." The answer became clear as Maya's pendant began to glow beneath her uniform. The light was subtle at first, barely visible through the fabric, but it grew steadily brighter as she worked. By the time she completed the objective, and deactivated the Guardian drones. A distinct, draconic pattern was visible through her clothing. The chamber fell silent. Every student, instructor, and observer stared at the human girl who had just demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything in her official records. The dragon crest continued to pulse with soft light, responding to her elevated heart rate as adrenaline coursed through her system. Zektar's jaw hung open, his scaled features displaying shock and disbelief. That's impossible. Humans don't carry crest marks. They don't have the genetic heritage for symbolic power bonding. Maya looked down at her glowing pendant, then back at her stunned classmates. You're right. Most humans don't. She paused, letting the implications sink in. I'm not most humans. Word of the incident spread through the academy like wildfire. Within hours, every student knew that the quiet human girl possessed a dragon crest, one of the rarest and most powerful symbols in galactic civilization. The dragon crests were legendary artifacts, said to choose their bearers based on qualities that transcended species, genetics, or social status. Only 7 had ever been confirmed to exist, and their previous holders had shaped the course of galactic history. Maya found herself summoned to Dean Omnarch's office, a vast chamber at the Academy's heart where the ancient Zentari administrator had governed for over 3 centuries. The Dean's crystalline carapace gleamed with accumulated wisdom, and his 4 eyes studied Maya with intense curiosity as she entered. Sit, Miss Chen, Omnarch commanded, his voice carrying harmonics that suggested vast age and experience. We have much to discuss. Maya settled into the offered chair, her pendant now dormant beneath her uniform. The dragon crest had retreated into quiescence after the training exercise, but she could still feel its presence like a warm pulse against her chest. Your enrollment records indicate standard human physiology and capabilities, the dean continued, accessing holographic displays that showed Maya's application data. No mention of crest bonding, no genetic markers for symbolic artifacts, no family history of extraordinary abilities. Either our screening systems failed catastrophically, or you deliberately concealed information during the application process. I didn't lie on my application, Maya replied carefully. I answered every question truthfully. If you asked whether I possessed special abilities, I would have said no, because I don't. The crest chooses when to reveal itself. Until yesterday, it had never responded to anything. Omnarch's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The dragon crests are not accessories to be worn or tools to be wielded. They are living symbols that bond with individuals whose potential resonates with ancient powers. If your crest remained dormant until now, it suggests your true capabilities are only beginning to manifest. He gestured, and the office's walls displayed images of the 6 previous crest bearers. Maya recognized some of them from her history studies. Architect Prime Velthon, who had designed the first stable wormhole networks. Commander Zarathul, who had united the warring factions during the Void Wars. Sage Harmonious Mathematics, whose equations had unlocked faster than light travel. Each bearer was initially underestimated, Omnarch explained. Each faced prejudice and dismissal from their contemporaries. Each ultimately changed the galaxy in ways no one anticipated. The question now is whether you understand the responsibility that comes with such potential. Maya studied the images of her predecessors, noting their diverse species and backgrounds. What happened to them? They transcended their origins to become something greater than the sum of their parts, the dean replied. But the path was never easy. The dragon crest draws both allies and enemies, creates opportunities and dangers in equal measure. Are you prepared for such challenges? Before Maya could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the academy. Emergency lights bathed the office in red warning signals, and automated announcements echoed through the corridors. Omnarch's expression shifted to concern as he accessed the Academy's security networks. Raider attack, he muttered, his harmonics conveying urgency. 3 ships, unknown configuration. They're targeting the student residential areas specifically. Maya felt her pendant growing warm against her skin. Why would raiders attack an academy? There's nothing here except students and research data. Unless they're after something specific, Omnarch realized, his ancient eyes focusing on Maya with sudden understanding. Or someone. The dragon crests are beyond price to certain collectors. News of your manifestation may have reached the wrong ears. The Academy's defensive systems engaged as the raider ships closed distance. Energy shields flared around the asteroid facility while automated defense platforms emerged from concealed positions. But the attackers had come prepared. their ships equipped with military-grade weapons that outclass the Academy's peaceful installations. "All students to emergency shelters," announced the security coordinator. "This is not a drill. Proceed to designated safe areas immediately." Maya stood to leave, but Omnarch gestured for her to remain seated. "Your situation is unique, Miss Chen. If these raiders are indeed targeting you, the standard shelters may not provide adequate protection. Then what do you suggest?" The dean's crystalline features reflected the emergency lighting as he considered options. "There is a secured research facility in the Academy's deepest levels. Ancient artifacts and dangerous experiments are stored there, protected by isolation fields and quantum locks. You would be safe. But, the facility contains items that might resonate with your crest in unpredictable ways. The interaction could be beneficial or catastrophic. We simply don't know enough about your specific bonding to predict the outcome." Another explosion rocked the Academy, closer this time. Through the office's transparent walls, Maya could see raider fighters strafing the outer defensive positions. The Academy's shields flickered under sustained bombardment, their energy patterns showing stress fractures. "Decision time, Miss Chen," Omnarch urged. "Standard shelter with your fellow students, or the research facility with unknown risks." Maya closed her eyes, feeling the dragon crest pulse against her chest. The artifact seemed to be responding to her elevated stress, warming and cooling in rhythm with her heartbeat. When she concentrated on the sensation, she could almost sense something else, as if the crest was trying to communicate without words. "The research facility," she decided. "If these raiders are after me, I won't put the other students at risk by hiding among them." Omnarch nodded approvingly and activated a private transport system that descended through the Academy's core. The journey took them past multiple security checkpoints, each one requiring the dean's personal authorization codes. Maya watched through the transport's windows as they passed laboratories, storage areas, and facilities she hadn't known existed. "The Academy is far larger than most students realize," Omnarch explained. "What you see during normal operations represents perhaps 10% of our total capacity. The rest is dedicated to research that requires absolute secrecy or containment." They reached the deepest accessible level, where the research facility waited behind multiple layers of protective barriers. The air itself seemed different here, charged with energies that made Maya's skin tingle. Her pendant responded immediately, its warmth intensifying until she could see faint light through her uniform. "Fascinating," Omnarch murmured, observing the crest's reaction. "It's responding to something specific in this environment. The question is, what?" The facility's interior resembled a museum more than a laboratory. Artifacts from dozens of civilizations lined the walls, each one contained within its own isolation field. Maya could see weapons that hummed with contained power, sculptures that seemed to move when viewed peripherally, and devices whose purpose she couldn't begin to guess. But one section drew her attention immediately. 3 pedestals stood empty in the center of the main chamber, their isolation fields inactive and their information displays showing only question marks. "The missing crests," she realized. "This is where they were kept." Omnarch's confirmation came with obvious reluctance. 3 of the 7 dragon crests have been lost over the centuries. We maintained hope that they might someday be recovered, but recent intelligence suggests they've fallen into dangerous hands. "What kind of dangerous hands?" "The Shadow Syndicate," the dean replied grimly. "A criminal organization that deals in stolen artifacts and forbidden technologies. If they've acquired multiple crests, they may be attempting to unlock their combined power for their own purposes." Maya approached the empty pedestals, her own crest growing brighter with each step. When she reached the nearest one, the artifact's warmth became almost uncomfortable, and she could swear she heard something like distant voices whispering in languages she didn't recognize. "The crests are connected," she whispered, understanding flooding through her. "They're not individual artifacts. They're parts of something larger." Above them, another explosion sent tremors through the facility. But this time, the shockwave felt different, more focused. Maya looked up at the ceiling with growing alarm as she realized what was happening. "They're not trying to capture me," she announced. "They're trying to drive me here, to this facility. They know about the missing crests, and they know mine will resonate with the storage systems." Omnarch's expression shifted to horror as the implications became clear. "If you're correct, then your presence here could destabilize the containment fields around every artifact in this facility." Some of these items are stored here because they're too dangerous to exist anywhere else. The facility's lights flickered as another targeted strike hit the levels above them. Maya felt her crest pulling her toward the empty pedestals with increasing urgency, as if the artifact itself was responding to the proximity of its missing siblings. "Dean," she said quietly, "I think we may have made a terrible mistake coming here." The last thing she saw before the lights went out completely was her dragon crest flaring to brilliant life, its radiance illuminating the entire chamber as ancient powers began to stir in response to her presence. In the darkness, Maya's dragon crest became the only source of light in the research facility. Its radiance revealed something that made both her and Dean Omnarch freeze with shock. The empty pedestals were no longer empty. 3 translucent forms hovered above them, ghostly impressions of the missing dragon crests that pulsed in rhythm with Maya's pendant. "Temporal echoes," Omnarch whispered, his ancient voice carrying awe and terror in equal measure. "Your crest is so strongly connected to the others that it's creating phantom impressions across space and time." The phantom crests grew more solid with each pulse of Maya's artifact, and she could feel knowledge flowing into her mind. Not her own thoughts, but the accumulated experiences of every being who had ever bonded with a dragon crest. The sensation was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a waterfall while drowning in an ocean of memory. She saw Architect Prime Velthon designing the first wormhole network, but also felt his doubt and fear as he realized the dangerous implications of instantaneous travel. She experienced Commander Zarathul's desperate battles against the void entities, sensing the weight of entire civilizations depending on her tactical decisions. The memories of sage harmonious mathematics flooded through her, revealing mathematical truths that most beings couldn't comprehend even after centuries of study. But beneath all these individual experiences, Maya sensed something else. A pattern. A purpose that connected all the crest bearers across time and species. The dragon crests weren't just powerful artifacts, they were components of a vast system designed to protect something precious beyond imagination. "The galaxy itself," she gasped, understanding flooding through her. "The crests are guardians. When the ancient civilization that created them faced extinction, they built a protection system that would activate when the galaxy faced similar threats. Above them, the raider attack intensified. But now Maya could sense the true nature of their enemies. These weren't ordinary criminals seeking valuable artifacts. They were servants of something far darker, beings from beyond the galactic rim who viewed all life as an infection to be cleansed. The void entities, she realized. They're not extinct. They've been waiting, gathering strength, and now they're moving again. Omnarch's crystalline features reflected her crest's growing light. "If you're correct, then the raiders above are merely scouts. The real invasion force must be approaching the galaxy's outer boundaries." The facility shuddered as another explosion rocked the academy. But this time the damage felt different. Maya could sense the attackers breaking through the upper levels, moving with purpose toward their current location. They knew exactly where to find her. "They can track the crest," she announced. "It's like a beacon to them, but also to the other crests. If I stay here, I'll lead them directly to every artifact in this facility. And if you leave?" Maya looked at the phantom crests hovering above their pedestals, feeling their silent urgency. "Then I fulfill the purpose I was born for." She approached the central pedestal, the one that had held the first dragon crest created by the ancient civilization. The phantom impression there was stronger than the others, more detailed, almost fully materialized. When she reached out to touch it, her own crest flared with such intensity that the entire facility was bathed in dragon fire. The contact created a connection that transcended physical space. Suddenly Maya could sense the locations of all 7 crests, scattered across the galaxy like points of light in the darkness. 3 were indeed in the hands of Shadow Syndicate agents, but they were moving, being transported toward something massive lurking beyond the galactic rim. 2 more crests were hidden on worlds that had been abandoned centuries ago, their bearers long dead but the artifacts themselves waiting for new champions to claim them. The 6th crest pulsed weakly from somewhere in the galactic core, its bearer alive but imprisoned, and the 7th was here, bonded to a human girl who had never understood her true heritage until this moment. "My grandmother knew," Maya whispered, as more memories flooded through her. "She was the previous bearer of my crest, but she gave it up when she fell in love with my grandfather. She chose a normal human life over galactic responsibility, but she never told me the truth about what I might become." The facility's main entrance exploded inward as Raider forces breached the final security barriers. Dark armored figures poured through the opening, their weapons crackling with energy that hurt to look at directly. But they stopped when they saw Maya standing amid the glowing dragon phantoms, her own crest blazing like a star. "The Beacon Child," hissed their leader, a being whose form seemed to shift and writhe within its armor. "You will come with us willingly, or we will take what remains after we burn this place to ash." "I don't think so," Maya replied, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. She raised her hand, and the phantom crests responded to her gesture. They launched themselves toward the raiders with devastating force, each ghostly dragon striking with the accumulated power of every bearer who had ever wielded them. The attackers' energy weapons proved useless against targets that existed partially outside normal space-time, but the phantoms were temporary, sustained only by Maya's connection to the missing crests. As the battle raged, she could feel them growing weaker, their forms becoming less solid with each passing moment. "Impressive," the raider leader acknowledged as his forces regrouped, "but phantom echoes cannot stand against real power forever. Surrender the crest, and we will grant you a swift death." "Counteroffer," Maya said, stepping forward as her pendant reached critical luminosity. "Leave now, and I won't show you what a real dragon crest can do when its bearer stops holding back." The raider leader laughed, a sound like breaking glass and dying stars. "Child, you know nothing of the forces you oppose. We serve masters who consumed civilizations when your species was still learning to make fire. What can one untrained human accomplish against the might of the void?" Maya smiled, and for the first time since awakening her crest, she felt truly confident. "You're about to find out." She reached deep into the connection with her artifact, not just accessing its power but embracing the responsibility that came with it. The dragon crest responded by transforming, its light shifting from white to gold to something beyond visible spectrum. The pendant itself began to change shape, flowing like liquid metal as it extended tendrils that wrapped around Maya's arms and shoulders. When the transformation completed, Maya stood encased in armor that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. The dragon crest had become part of her, integrated into a protective shell that pulsed with the combined power of every bearer who had ever accepted its bond. "Impossible," the raider leader snarled. "Full integration requires decades of preparation and training. No being can achieve symbiosis on their first manifestation." "You're right," Maya agreed, raising her hand to reveal claws that sparked with contained energy. "No being can. But humans aren't like other species. We don't just adapt to our tools. We become them." The battle that followed was brief but decisive. Maya moved with speed and grace that defied physics, her integrated crest allowing her to manipulate space-time around herself. She didn't just fight the raiders, she unraveled their existence, sending them back to the void between realities where they belonged. When the last attacker had been banished, Maya felt the armor beginning to recede. The integration was temporary, her human physiology not yet capable of sustaining such complete bonding, but she had proven something important, both to herself and to the watching galaxy. Dean Omnarch emerged from behind an overturned artifact case, his crystalline features showing amazement and respect. "Miss Chen, what you just accomplished should have been impossible. The records show that previous bearers required years of training before attempting even partial integration. Maybe that's because they were trying to control the crest instead of trusting it," Maya suggested, feeling the pendant settle back into its familiar weight against her chest. "My grandmother used to say that the best partnerships happen when both sides stop trying to be in charge." Above them, the Academy's emergency systems announced the all-clear. The raider attack was over, but Maya knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere beyond the galactic rim, the real threat was gathering strength. The Shadow Syndicate had 3 dragon crests, and they were taking them to masters who would use their power for unimaginable destruction. "I need to find the other bearers," Maya announced. "The living one in the galactic core, and whoever claims the 2 hidden crests. This isn't something any of us can face alone." Omnarch nodded slowly. "Such a quest would be dangerous beyond measure. You would be traveling to the most perilous regions of known space, facing enemies that have had centuries to prepare. Then it's a good thing I'm not traveling alone," Maya replied, gesturing toward the empty pedestals where faint traces of dragon light still lingered. "Every bearer who came before me left part of themselves in the crest. I'll carry their experience, their knowledge, their determination." She paused, looking at the devastation around them and thinking of her fellow students who had probably spent the attack cowering in emergency shelters. Besides, she added with a smile that would have made her grandmother proud, everyone keeps underestimating what humans can accomplish when we set our minds to something. I think it's time to show the galaxy what we're really capable of. As Maya prepared to leave the academy and begin her quest, the dragon crest pulsed against her chest with warm approval. For the first time in centuries, all 7 crests were stirring to wakefulness. The ancient protection system was beginning to activate, and the human girl they had all dismissed would be the one to guide its awakening. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Neither did the forces that threatened it, but they were all about to learn why dragons chose their bearers not based on species or heritage, but on the strength of spirit that burned within them. And humanity's spirit, once ignited, blazed brighter than any star.